You might hear me, but you don't see me.
Well, I see that you're on here.
Yes.
Let's call the meeting to order. Laura, can we have a roll call, please?
Director Sesenia.
I'm here.
Director Gatchell.
Here.
Director Ohilsky.
Present.
Vice President Fourcroy.
I'm here.
President Womack.
Present. Okay, I think we have, do we have Jackie here from SLO County Air Pollution Control District to give us a presentation?
We do, and I'll give her a very brief introduction. If everyone remembers, at our last meeting on February 4th, Jackie did give us a very brief introduction to the Air Pollution Control District's programs regarding electric charging stations or electric vehicle charging stations. She's gracious enough to come back and give us a presentation to answer any questions the board and public may have. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jackie.
Great, thank you. I'm going to try to share my screen. Okay, great. I think it's working. Hi, my name is Jackie. I work for the SLO Air Pollution Control District, and I'm going to be talking about EV charging stations and APCD grants, both current and future opportunities. So starting with the basics, there are 3 types of stations. There's the level 1 stations. These are usually for home charging. On your walks around the neighborhood, you may see this set up in someone's garage. These chargers range from about $300 to $1,500 and usually come with the purchase of an EV vehicle. 1 hour of charging with a level 1 charger gets you about 2 to 5 miles. So you would use this charger overnight or over a long-term period. Level 2 stations are usually at commercial or public areas. You may have seen these at Target or Home Depot in San Luis. These chargers and the installation to charge them usually range from about $10,000 to $20,000, and that's a really rough estimate because costs can vary significantly based on where you are putting the charging station relative to the electrical panel. The further away the charger is from the panel, the greater the cost because of the underground work with a wiring or conduit that needs to be installed. And 1 hour of charging with a level 2 charger gets you about 10 to 20 miles. And the third charger is called a DC fast charger, or sometimes referred to as a level 3 charging station. They're usually along heavy traffic corridors like highways and freeways. A really rough estimate of the cost for installing these types of chargers is $70,000 to $100,000. And these chargers are more difficult to estimate cost because it's such a new technology, and we've only granted a couple of these stations. In about 20 minutes, though, you could get 60 to 80 mile range. So moving on to cost recovery. If you're trying to make money back on your charger, things to consider would be installing the charger in a busy, accessible location. Encourage EV owners to use the charger by proper signage is really big, and adding chargers to networks like plugshare.com and other apps. Like you can see here, you can clearly see where all the charging stations are in San Luis, and so people will go visit them. And then researching nearby charging pricing is also really important. So looking at what the chargers are costing in San Luis. There's a few in Morro Bay. And then really discussing these options with various EV vendors because they're really the experts in this, this type of information. And so that kind of brings me to the first step, which is to contact vendors or electricians for quote and specifics for your project. These quotes are often at no cost to you, and we can't endorse or recommend any particular companies. But if you Google EV charging station installation, it should set you on a good path. And maybe as a public entity, you all would already need to do this, but we do advise getting multiple quotes because we have seen quite a variation in price for the same project. And I think that has to do with, again, it being such a new industry. So moving on to the grant opportunities. Currently, applications for the Community Air Protection Program are being accepted until March 15th. This is a competitive program, meaning projects within the low-income areas of the county and feedback received during community outreach will have priority. And the community let us know that they would rather see public charging stations. We anticipate more funding fall of 2021. However, COVID budget concerns may change this estimation, both in time and the amount of money that we expect. But for more information about this program, you can follow this link to our webpage. So there's also the Alternative Fuel Infrastructure Program. This is a first come, first serve program, and there's $60,000 remaining. And this program continues until the funding runs out. So until that $60,000 runs out, the program will continue to be open and accepting applications. Additional funding is likely in 2022. And more information, you can visit this link to go to this webpage on our slowcleanair.org website. So just a brief snapshot of the eligible projects and application requirements. Non-residential chargers can be public for businesses or agencies, and they can only be level 2 or 3, but multifamily chargers can be considered on a case-by-case basis. They can be level 1, 2, or 3. An itemized quote is needed, specification sheets, a 1-year warranty on the equipment. Competitive bids are required for public charger projects. So that just means getting multiple bids. And you must show evidence of leasehold or ownership on the parcel. And I know this is something the board needs to think about because you all don't own a lot of land, but the leasing is definitely an option. We're currently working with the Cambria CSD on a charging station project, and they are working with the county to secure a three-year lease on a parking lot owned by the county. And the 3-year lease is due to that's how long our project life is for our grant programs. You can also consider reaching out to local businesses and asking if they would be interested in the program themselves, or maybe even leasing their parking lot spaces to the CSD. So eligible costs and funding amounts. The cost of design and engineering, equipment, and installation directly related to the charging station are all eligible. Of course, taxes, shipping, permits, and CEQA costs are also covered. CEQA costs are pretty rare. You would only need to go through this if your project is really big. And looking quickly at this funding table, at a minimum, you're going to get 50% funding for your project, but it could go up to 100% if it's at a sensitive receptor location like a school, hospital, daycare center, or other like locations in the low income area. And you also get bonus points if you're going to also install solar or wind power systems. So you can see that those percentages are higher. And lastly, this is a future opportunity. The South Central Coast Incentive Program will launch fall of 2021. There are lots of funding partners, including the Energy Commission, the SLO and Santa Barbara and Ventura APCDs, the Central Coast Community Energy, and SLOCOG. And over 3 years, there will be $2.2 million available for public level 2 and DC fast chargers in SLO County. The rebates are much higher for DC fast chargers. So if you're thinking Los Osos could use a DC fast charger, this program would probably be best. But if you're thinking of a level 2 or level 1, the CAP program or the alt fuel program shown before would probably be better. And this program comes out of Cal EVIP. And as of now, the best place to find more information would be through calevip.org. because we're still in the program design phase and haven't gotten that information up on our website yet. And with that, I can take any questions.
Hey, Chris, can I add something? Because we had a presentation
Please.
that I've seen previously, and so we did have some discussion about this. So one of the things that was laid out when we didn't have a presentation, you made public comment, but one of the things was laid out is that there might be a prime location and working with the county at South Bay Community Park in the parking lot there, which is similar to what she said they're doing, excuse me, with Cambria. So I just wanted to lay that out, that there has been previously some discussion by the BMC on this subject, and that was one of the things that we thought about.
I was curious, how much did the, and I don't know if Jacqueline knows, but how much did the county charge Cambria to lease the parking lot? Like, is it minimal?
I could definitely find out that information for you. They're still working in finalizing that lease, and so I can find out that cost for you.
Yeah, because that might be, you know, they have property here that would make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'd like to see that option pursued by staff in the short term here, but I just wanted to lay that out, that we did have some other discussions about that. And that was the location that was identified as being a prime location.
Was that what was the prime location?
The South Bay Community Park parking lot, because of the people going to Montana, de Oro, et cetera.
Okay. Anything else they discussed you want to share?
This is Chuck.
Go for it, Chuck.
Okay, I just want to go back to maybe the very beginning of this all. Explain the whole process to me. I don't have an EV yet. That's the way we're going to go. There's no doubt about it in this state. But so we install one of these, and people come up with a card, they pay. You talked about researching various pricing at other stations around. I don't know how any of that works. So back us up a couple steps just to explain the very basics of this.
Yeah, okay. So I went back to that first slide that showed the 3 types of charging stations.
Yes.
And yeah, so it really depends on what charger you would go to at a public station. So that one in the middle, that is a charge point charger. And so that would be a kind of credit card machine, or sometimes they have little key fobs, or they even have a monthly membership program.
Is that what you would see at Target, you know, that kind of thing in front of their store?
Yeah, I'm not positive if they're charge point chargers, but the concept is the same. There's a screen. It's kind of blurred on the picture, but there's a screen and it's interactive, and you essentially, swipe your credit card. In the picture to the right, you can kind of see how there would be a slot where you would insert your credit card to pay, just like a gas pump, except it's at Target. So, and then you plug in your, you use the nozzle to plug it into your EV vehicle. Depending on what level charger, it generates a certain amount of electricity to your electric vehicle and charges it up like your cell phone.
So basically what you're doing is taking the electricity from the public utility provider and then adding your markup to it. And it's up to the consumer to look around for the most reasonable access and cost and all the things they need to consider.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. And this map is from plugshare.com, and that's just, there's lots of apps out there that are displaying where the charging stations are. And if you click this is interactive, so you can click on these icons and it pulls up a lot of information about how much it costs to charge. There's reviews on the charger. People could, just like Yelp or something, people rate their reviews of the charger. And certain EV vehicles might have different connection requirements. So some chargers are, they also state what charge head is available on the charger. So if you know it's accessible to your EV vehicle.
Okay, this is the next wave. I mean, hybrids are over. We're going to this level. Okay, thank you.
This is
So,
Matthew. I have a few questions that I'd like to ask. So regarding the application for the grant funding, what you mentioned that there was a slide that talked about that the window's closing on March 15th. So in
Oh yeah.
a little over a week here,
Mhm.
and then likely funding in fall 2021. So what is necessary? What level of detail on a project is necessary to secure funding?
Yeah, so on this slide, I went over just a kind of the high level picture of what's necessary. You have your basic application, and that looks like this picture here, you know, just your general information about who you are and where your project's going to be. The bigger things are getting a quote from an EV vendor, and that will give you like a site plan of where your charger is going to be in the parking lot and that sort of thing. That's what we need to see. It will give you specification sheets on the type of equipment that you're trying to install. We need a 1-year warranty, which that's just something, typically these chargers have that kind of warranty already built into the business model.
So you don't need approved permits from the county, and if it's a new electric service, then we're dealing with PG&E. You don't need a signed agreement with PG&E to fund an application.
Not at that point, just to turn in the application and be considered.
Okay.
But the one thing about that, so the permit to actually install the charger does come later after the charger's already installed. That's when you'll contact the county and go through that permitting process. But if you're going to go with the lease route, that needs to be finalized when you turn in your application.
Okay, so a lease has to be secured, but having the electrical permit to do this isn't necessary to secure funding.
Yes.
Okay, very good. That's an important part of this is going through permitting, and depending on. Oh, and the other question is there a minimum number of chargers required?
Currently, there's not. It's just one. Yeah, we've had some internal discussion about if in the future we're going to raise that minimum, but nothing has been decided yet.
Got it. So we have a window closing here in a week and a half or so, and then a potential new window opening in the fall.
Yes, for the Community Air Protection Program. The alt fuel program, I know the names are pretty confusing, but the alt fuel program, there's $60,000 left. And that $60,000 has been sitting there for quite a while because essentially this program is ongoing. Once the $60,000 runs out, then the program will close until we get additional funding.
Who decides whether you get additional funding for these programs?
So the grant funding comes from various sources. This Community Air Protection Program is GGRF funding. So it's greenhouse gas reduction funding, which comes from cap and trade. And so essentially CARB, the California Area Source Board, is dishing out this money at the state level. This alternative fuel program is usually funded by local DMV registration fees. So like a $2 of your registration fee goes into this program.
Okay. Well, I'm just reading it, the additional funding likely and what does likely mean. So it sounds like it's pretty ingrained because that funding source is ongoing.
Yeah, I guess the likeliness for this program, this is more likely in terms of timing. We do expect to see funding for this program come through. We're never exactly sure when it's going to come through. The likeliness for this program, since we do have other grants that we can fund, like tractors and school buses and marine vessels, we do internally decide how much money is going to each program for this specific grant funded program.
Okay, I appreciate it. It's really helpful. Thank you.
Oh, so can I clarify? I know that there's a deadline of March 15th, but is that a soft deadline? If there's still money available, we could submit applications after?
So for this program, this is on a really tight budget, or a tight timeline, because this money is coming from the state, and we have a deadline of May 1st of when we need to allocate all this funding, or else the funding returns to the state. But like I said, this program is ongoing. So, and you can fill out one application. You don't need to decide which program is, the one for you. I kind of understand what project should go to which program.
Okay, good to know.
So in a sense, I wouldn't, you don't have to wait for the funding to come to get started on your project.
All right. Are there any other questions from the board? And I just have a comment. Like, if you look at PlugShare in our area, there's all that is available are like you plug into the wall, and it's usually at the hotel. And so, as opposed to San Luis has a bunch, so we have 0. All right, let's open up to public comment.
If you'd like to make a public comment and you're on your phone, please dial *9. And if you're on your computer, please raise your hand. All right, Aaron, you just have to unmute yourself.
Okay. I just wanted to say that I think this sounds like an excellent opportunity, and I encourage the CSD to go forward with pursuing this. I think it would be excellent not only for people that are in EVs going back and forth to places like Montana de Oro, but also for people that have only a level 1 charger at home. Sometimes it's really handy to be able to find a level 2 charger and zap a couple miles in. And also, so I think, in other words, that a lot of Los Osos residents would also get benefit from it. And then also, I'm a professor at Cal Poly, and I have a number of contacts on campus. It might quite likely be the situation that the legwork involved in speccing out, like finding a site and doing some background research and analysis on the site, maybe comparing a couple of options, that might possibly be an excellent student project for a major in city and regional planning or in environmental design. So if you like, I can leave contact information for myself if you think that would be interested. And that's my comment.
Thank you.
There is no
we have any
other
other?
public comment at this time.
All right.
Erin, if you would like to email info@losososcsd.org, I can make sure your contact information gets passed around.
Yes, we need to take
Okay,
advantage of
so-
that. That this is a exciting opportunity, but there's a lot that needs to be teased out. I mean, we're going to be serving local residents. There's a lot of people that come through to MDO that maybe could use the level 3. Where do we put those kind of things? That's a wonderful opportunity. I appreciate the offer of help. And I think we should take advantage of that.
All right. And then, Jacqueline, I'd like to thank you
Oh.
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, the district options moving forward on the staff report. And the recommendation is to provide direction to staff based on the presentation. And I really would like to see item number 1 at this point, which is direct staff to research the feasibility of locating and constructing EV charging stations in Los Osos in partnership with either the public or private entities, and in particularly the county at the South Bay Community Park. But I would like to basically move that first thing, that we provide that direction to staff.
I have one question, for Ron, actually. This is Matthew. For a project like this, which budget or which pile of money that we have would we be using for this?
The direct answer is we don't have a pile of money for this.
Okay.
Except the Zone A money, which we allocate through water, emergency services, and Parks and Rec, could be used for this. And from that, water is very specific, emergency services is very specific. So we might be able to piggyback into the Parks and Rec budget. But that's something the board, of course, this is a new initiative, and this is something we haven't specifically budgeted for.
Right. Okay.
Right,
So,
which is the reason
That's a
that
good question.
that's the reason, Matthew, that I was bringing up number 1, because part of it, it says direct staff to research the feasibility, and the feasibility part of that analysis would be the question that you raised, in my opinion.
yeah, how to pay for it. Okay.
Exactly.
I can second
very-
Marshall's motion.
All right. Is there any discussion, or, I think, the first directive sounds good as well.
I
All right, shall we
agree.
take a
I
vote?
just think that, we haven't allocated Zone A money for this kind of thing. We're going to be taking whatever we spend to research this now is going to come out of a budget somewhere that hasn't been allocated. And I have no problem with Zone A money going to this kind of thing. I think that's what it should be for. And I want to move ahead with this. But yeah, March 15th and this go around, we're just getting started here.
Well, and
Yeah,
part of this,
we're not hitting March 15th.
right, but part of this money could come from the community fund, because this basically is, so there's multiple sources that would be looked at. That's again why I'm pushing for number 1 here. So
I agree. We still have some water quality kind of funds sitting around somewhere that we were given a while back. No, we need to move ahead with this.
Okay, and I think it's fine. We don't know the answers. We'll just try to figure that out and be ready, because I think there's more money coming. So, all right. So I had a first and a second on directing the staff to research the feasibility. Shall we take a vote? All in favor, or does
We do a
Laura
roll call,
take a roll?
Roll call, please.
Okay.
Director Oholsky,
Yes.
Director Fourcroy,
Yes.
Director Sisenia,
Yes.
Director Gatchell,
Yes.
President Womack.
Yes. All right.
And Chris,
Jacqueline, I really appreciate your, you're coming back and giving us some more detail, and I'm glad you came the first time in February, but thanks for coming back and presenting to us.
Yeah, no
Chris,
problem.
I'm sorry, Marshall?
yeah, I was also going to say, you know, with my background and obviously as a land use attorney, I'm more than happy to work with staff to help them look at some of those issues that may come up during the feasibility analysis here. So I'll
right,
offer
terrific.
my services here.
This is Matthew. Do
All
we
right.
have a copy of the presentation that we could post?
We have one.
Okay. I would appreciate getting a copy of that.
Well, I
Yes,
appreciate seeing a
I'd love
copy
to
of it
see
on
that.
our website.
We'll
Yeah.
do both.
Okay,
Thank you.
so thank you. Thanks again, Jacqueline, for coming back.
Thanks.
All right. Let's see, public comments for items not on the agenda.
If you'd like to make a public comment and you're on your phone, please dial *9. And if you're on your computer, please raise your hand. All right, Cynthia, you just have to unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening, board. I'm Cynthia Replogle. I'm a director on the Oceano CSD, and I've sent you a couple of emails, most recently this afternoon, about the current effort to repeal the countywide polystyrene ordinance. There's a lot of information in there, and I won't repeat it, but I do hope you'll take the time to review that. It's a more complex issue than I realized when this first came about, but I remain convinced that it's important to the county as well as especially to our beach communities to continue this ban on this pernicious type of plastic, think styrofoam clamshells, coffee cups, etc., that often litter our streets and beaches and clutter up our landfills. So I hope that your board will take a look into this issue and let our authorized district's representative, who is Robert Enns on the IWMA board, know what your direction is on this matter, as well as the entire IWMA board. There will be an introduction of an ordinance to repeal the polystyrene ban next Wednesday, and then a public hearing on the matter on April 14th. So your board does still have time if you'd like to come out as a board in support of this ordinance and opposing repeal. And I hope you will consider doing that. Thank you for your time.
There's no other public comment at this time.
All right. So I'd like to thank Cynthia for bringing that to our attention. That they passed the styrofoam ban ordinance and they're trying to work around it now.
This is Chuck. I am annoyed, at least, by this. We don't need polystyrene. So many restaurants aren't using it anymore. I don't know if it's the Elks Club with the coffee cups or what, but there are other alternatives. And I think that we should maybe let Mr. Enns know that our CSD is not in favor of changing that ordinance. And I don't know what else we can do. We don't have a seat on the Integrated Waste Management Authority, but we can at least do that.
Well,
And
I
so
think,
I guess what I would like is to agendize it in April and talk about,
yeah,
maybe we send a letter just stating our opposition to the change. I don't know what's turn things around. It seems to me that in a pandemic time, maybe you need to double down and say, no, that's going to put more of this stuff in our landfills and beaches, and that's even more of a reason not to have it around. But anyway, I would like to take a stand on this.
We can
Yeah, I
definitely
think,
do that. I'm sorry. I was going to
oh,
say.
well, I was
can
going to ask
definitely-
you to agendize it for April, and then we can discuss it and vote on it as a board. And then we still have time to send that letter. Is that,
Yes. We
what
can
were
do
you
that.
going to say, Ron?
I was going to say we can definitely agendize it for our April meeting.
Okay, let's do that. And then we can talk more fully. All right.
And I would just add a comment for Cynthia. For her local restaurants and areas, Surfrider does have a ocean-friendly restaurants program that helps local restaurants know what items to help reduce waste and be friendly to our oceans. I think their program got stalled with the COVID pandemic, but they were going out to local restaurants and helping restaurants understand how to order supplies and what supplies they can do to help with ocean friendly. So if you want to look at Surfrider's information or help your local restaurants, they have a good program.
Excellent. All right. Thank you for the public comment and the discussion. Let's move on to administrative and committee reports. Let's see, what's the Sheriff's Department report? Do we have the sheriff?
It does not look like they made it actually to the meeting.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess.
Oh, wait, sorry, there is somebody
Well,
raising their hand that called in. That might be may I unmute them?
yes, please.
All right, you're able to unmute yourself. Phone number ending in 05.
Hi, this is Sergeant Langston from the Sheriff's Office. Can you guys hear me?
Welcome.
Hi there. Thanks for having me. Happy to go over the month of February report with you guys. Assume you received the PDF.
Yes. Excellent. Go ahead.
Okay, so for calls for service for the time frame of February 1st through the 24th of this year, we have 71 calls for service, which is up a tick from last year at 59. I do try to, whenever I can, drill down into these incidents so that it's not just blanket numbers. A little bit of context with that. The major difference between last year and this year solely rests with deputies making more proactive encounters, as everyone's familiar with COVID, and we had the unhoused issues and the parks, and so our deputies have been really prudent on going out there and making themselves known. So that is the increase in calls for service. Just to give a little background on that, it's not marked spike in crime or anything like that. For assaults and batteries, we had 4 calls for service. None of those were noteworthy. No major injuries or anything like that. Disturbance calls, there was 34. Those were almost exclusively noise-related disturbances, or people having parties, talking too loudly, etc. Burglaries, there was 4. Only one of those was a residence. The rest were cars that were broken into. Thefts, there was 3. Those were also cars. It's just when a car is unlocked, it's considered a theft, not a burglary. Vandalism was 5. None of those involved anything gang related. It was mostly neighbor disputes on irrigation lines and property lines, things of that nature. There was 2 mail theft calls. Nothing noteworthy there other than, as we're all aware of, mail theft is a big problem, and that's just 2 people reporting that they had something stolen out of their mailbox. One phone scam call, which is really low. That's good considering the amount of spam we all receive on a daily basis on our phones. Suspicious search, 8. That is just simply something that doesn't fit into any other category, something that might not arise to a crime, but a citizen has a concern about it, so we send deputies out. Deputies made 52 enforcement stops, and those are just traffic stops essentially, or pedestrian stops. And preventative patrol activity, that's 22. That's going to be where the majority of the rise from last year. And so that's whenever a deputy puts themselves out on a patrol without a citizen calling, without a 911 call or anything. They just see an area that needs some extra attention, so they put themselves out on it. And that's the end of that report. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Excellent. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, this is Matthew Forkroy. I have one question. It's not about your report, but the most common thing I get asked about concerning law enforcement is speeding through Los Osos. And one thing I wanted to ask you about is that your job, your guys' jurisdiction, or is that CHP down LOVR?
So throughout San Luis Obispo County, the Sheriff's Office has a memorandum of understanding with the Highway Patrol that they handle all traffic-related complaints. So that would include anything speeding, reckless driving, drunk driving, accident reports, things of that nature. Those all get handled by the Highway Patrol.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's just my feedback is that's the number one law enforcement thing people talk to me about as being a public official is speeding along LOVR. So, and I haven't been able to tell them who they should call. I never knew if it's the sheriff they should be talking to or CHP. So it's CHP.
So since you broached that subject, Highway Patrol does exclusively handle traffic-related complaints, but that's not to say that deputies in the field, if they observe something happening in front of them, that they won't take enforcement action, which is one of the line items there, the 52 enforcement stops. Those are traffic stops. So just because CHP is responsible for handling complaints for traffic, if one of us is behind a car and they're speeding, we're still going to make the stop and take the necessary enforcement action. So I don't want to preclude us that we don't address traffic complaints. It's just that's not our primary function.
Right. Yep. No, understood. No, thanks for that clarification. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Very good. Any other questions? I really appreciate you giving us a verbal report. It's great to hear from the Sheriff's Department. So thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Night. General Manager report.
Yes, thank you. I always like to backtrack just a little bit into the Utilities Department report. There really isn't much in terms of update on projects. Typically, that's what I'll kind of focus on. But I did want to say, the 10th Street well issue that we've been having, the electrical problem we've been having issues with, we've pretty much found that it's a PG&E problem. And so our staff is working with PG&E staff to resolve that. We are able to operate the well during the day, but it appears in the evenings, there's a power issue that makes the well shut down around 6 o'clock in the evening. So we're working through that. Otherwise, the well is doing great. Onto the general manager's report. I just have a few items here. I did put the COVID-19 Tenant Relief Act on, mainly because there is going to be money available, and it is $18 million or $17 million. I had two different sources on how much money was available when I wrote this report, but there is $17 million available. The county has decided to have the state run the assistance program. My understanding that the website for the state will be up and running for that around March 15th. This will be money available to tenants and landlords to pay back rent as well as utility bills. Several general managers in the area, we've been talking about this and following it, and as information's available, we'll have it on our website for interested parties. So stay tuned to that one. We did not have a Basin Management Committee this month. We will have, or in February, we will have one in March. We're mainly working on funding alternatives with a subgroup. We should have that wrapped up hopefully before the March meeting to be presented to the committee. And accessory dwelling units is a very hot topic in terms of water supply. The Coastal Commission's involved with the county ordinance on that issue. And again, that should surface at the BMC at their March meeting. I have some great news on the Farrell Avenue Pathway project. We have gone out to bid as of Monday of this week. And we also received, or at least I received via the county's portal on building permits, that our plans have been reviewed and accepted. I don't have permit in hand yet, but I'm hoping to have that. We have approvals from U.S. Fish and Wildlife to continue construction, and we have our encroachment permit from County Public Works. So that project is proceeding. Again, that will probably, construction will be in June. And then finally, I just wanted to plug our mailing list. We do get a lot of inquiries about our meetings, board meetings, committee meetings, and other things we're involved with. So I really encourage the public to go on our website and sign up. It's really easy. There's a button you can click, give us your email, and you'll be, you can add yourself to committees, our e-news, newsletter, and we're really trying to provide as much information as we can, as easily as we can to the community. With that, I can answer any questions.
All right. Any questions from the board? I think I had one, or I just noticed it looked like, and maybe I'm misunderstanding, but were the runtime hours up even though the amount of water is about the production's about the same? Is that because 10th Street is down?
Runtime and production are dependent on the source. For instance, we don't, some of our wells don't produce as much water as other wells, so they have to run longer to produce, like 3rd Street's a very good example. It's not a high production well, though it's being very productive right now, but it requires a longer runtime to produce that water. So that's what you're seeing in that variation in runtimes for the wells.
Okay, just curious.
Sure, good question.
I got to say,
Any other questions for?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you regarding this issue, the South Bay well. Adding that South Bay lower well has just increased production compared to runtime tremendously, and with the problems we've been having at 10th Street and all that, I'm so glad we got that back online or upgraded that service. And it's nice to finally have 10th Street kind of figured out. And so the chicken that I was going to go down and slaughter and sacrifice, maybe I'll just have it for dinner. But yeah, I'm glad we finally got that figured out.
We are too.
All right.
That's been a head scratcher.
Okay, before we go to utilities, I realize LOCAC's a written report, but I did want to point out LOCAC is having elections. There's availability in all 4 districts. You can get the application at locac.info, and the deadline is March 13th. And the election will be in May 15th, I believe. And utilities report.
We already kind of went through that one, Chris. I kind of combined it with the general managers, yeah.
Okay, then the finance report, I guess that's me, and the committee recommended we receive and file the, see, I'm not ready. The let's see, what at FAC we approved the minutes, we approved the work plan. They recommended receiving and filing the warrant register and the financial reports. All right, so what's next?
So Chris, this is Chuck, and I just wanted to jump back in because Ron handled the Utilities Advisory Committee report. But I just want to say I appreciate the committee's work and the efforts to keep our infrastructure in top shape. We're handling things. We've got the 16th Street tanks that kind of, just as things come at us, we're able to handle it. And I am so appreciative of that. And I know we're going to be reconvening the rate committee soon and make sure that we're ready for the future. But it is nice to have confidence in where we're at. And so I want to thank Mr. Munns and the Utilities Department.
Yes, well said. And we have a lot of help from the committees too.
Yes, that's a strong committee, and thanks to all the committee members.
Yes. Okay. Do we have any announcements? Probably not with COVID. So any previously asked questions? Do we have any responses to previously asked questions?
We do not tonight.
Okay.
Well, this is Matthew. One thing to note is the ethics and harassment training. I think quite a few of us did that recently. I know I just completed mine in February, both of those trainings.
Me
right.
too. I finally followed up on mine, Laura. I haven't let you know that, but the certificates are with the CSDA or whoever they need to be.
And our 700 forms are due April 1st. I finished that.
We appreciate all the directors' times and paying attention to the trainings. It really helps us here in the office and with CSDA.
All right. Thank you. All right. Can we open up for public comment for items on the administrative and committee reports?
If you'd like to make a public
Or,
comment. Oh, wait, you
was I
just
supposed
see
to ask if we
want
need to
pull any-
pull? Yes. Would anyone like to pull anything from the consent agenda? Okay. So I take that as a no, and now we will open it up for public comment for items on the administrative and committee reports.
If you'd like to make a public comment and you're on your phone, please dial *9. And if you're on your computer, please raise your hand. There's no public comment at this time.
All right. So am I waiting to hear a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to receive and file the reports and approve the consent agenda.
Excellent. Do I hear a second?
I will second that.
Okay, that sounds
That's
like
Chuck.
Chuck.
Yes.
A roll call vote, please.
Director Ohilsky,
Yes.
Director Sesenia,
Yes.
Director Gatchell,
Yes.
Vice President Fourcroy,
Yes.
President Womack.
Yes. All right. This is moving right along. Do any of the board members have a future agenda item?
Just that polystyrene issue. Let's get that on the board and take a stand.
I agree. Sounds good. Any others? All right. Do anyone on the board have any closing comments? I'd like to thank both Ron and Laura for all their work they do to get us ready for these meetings, and you do such a fine job. You make us look good. So thanks everybody for their participation and
Chris, I'll second that. Our website looks so much better these days. And I know that Laura's help with Zoom and LOCAC and all these things it's nice to feel confident in what we can offer the community.
Yes, I'll
Yeah, you're
triple
doing an
that
amazing
motion.
job, both of you. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, well, not
Sorry.
only both of them, but the entire staff. So I'm going to triple that comment, but
Yeah.
I want to expand it to the entire staff.
Oh, excellent idea. All right. Hearing no other comment, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank
Good night,
you,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Everyone.
Thanks, Jeff.
Good night. Thank you.